So the number one thing, very tactical, profit share. That's the number one thing. Once we rolled that out, all of a sudden the guys started talking in business terms and like terms, right?
Welcome to Jobber's Masters of Home Service podcast, where successful business owners share their secrets for making your business more profitable and efficient. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester, owner of Charlottesville Lawn Care and Charlottesville Gutter Pros for the last 15 years. I truly believe that service entrepreneurs need to come together from different service industries and swap stories, share tips, and learn from each other. By getting together and sharing each other's successes and failures, we can help each other level up. And that's the mission of Masters of Home Service. Today's episode is about cutting costs in your business and where to start. Today we have two great guests. Andy Wines is the owner of Camo Junk Removal in Butler, Wisconsin, and Terrence Chan, owner of Impetus Plumbing and Heating in Vancouver, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about your approach to cutting costs in business. Where do you start, and what do you think? Let's go with Andy first.
First step in cutting costs is knowing what to cut. So the biggest thing I realized in business when I was looking at the business as we scaled, it was real simple at first. We had no money. So when you have no money, it's really easy. It's simpler to keep your costs low because you don't know what to buy, what to invest in, what assets to purchase. And so you grow and you scale, and then someday you look back like, oh, we had a bunch of money, what happened? And if you're not collecting the data at a time, you're already behind the eight ball. So the first thing we do now is capturing the data. And now we're making data-driven decisions so we can look at what are the differences. When we spend money in our business, it's going in one of three buckets. We're either purchasing an asset, we're investing in an opportunity, or we're paying for an expense. And these two buckets we don't want to touch. We want to cut our expenses, our true expenses, versus purchasing assets that are going to reduce cost over time, or investing in opportunities which will bring in more dollars over time. What ends up happening is we put all these, every time money goes out, you're like, oh, it's an expense, and even on a profit and loss statement, we look at it as only an expense. Well, no. Are we investing in people and processes? Are we purchasing assets that are going to reduce our costs over time? Or are we spending money on things like fuel and insurance and things that go right off the tailpipe that you never see again? And so understanding where the money's going is the first step.
That's pretty deep.
They gave me a cup of coffee and said, let's go.
Yeah, you're next.
For me, I've never really looked into cutting costs. It's more about the happiness of how my technicians feel and how I feel myself. As long as the bank account's rolling and I see the numbers going up, I haven't really looked at cutting costs at all because whatever I've been doing so far has been working. And if I were to cut costs, it starts cutting corners for me because the way that I market my business is all about quality work. So if I were to ever go for a cheaper product or look at cheaper things, it would affect the whole entirety of the business itself. So more so of looking at cutting costs or not, I look at how to improve the efficiency of the business to see how we can make more money instead. If you always think about cutting costs, you really don't think how you can make more. You're more pigeon-holed in the idea of what can we do to cut these little things. But whenever you cut things, from what my perspective was, because I've worked in a lot of companies, when people cut costs such as like, taking away lunches or not paying for lunches or whatever it is, you affect the happiness health of your employees as well. And I think that's not what I'd like to go towards. Main concern for me is how do I make more and what do I do to change so that I don't have to look at cutting costs.
No, I really like what you said there about cutting costs as a negative connotation, right? There's a huge difference between cutting, right? And you're like, oh, no, we're taking away from the business versus looking at what do we have currently in place? How can we be most efficient and effective with what we have? And what do we need to do to be more efficient? I came from corporate America and we had all the tools at our disposal to be super efficient. I went from that to routing trucks with pen and paper and texting my brother like, hey, are you at this address because we were supposed to be there 20 minutes ago. I can tell you that's not an efficient way of building a business, right? We kept our costs low by having a cell phone bill and some chicken scratch. It doesn't mean that we were efficient and we weren't effective. And so when we talk about making investments, I like what you said about investing in your employees. And also when your business is rolling and you're hitting your objectives and you're hitting your KPIs, last thing you're thinking about is how do I cut back at roll with it, right? The end state is to have more money. So there's two ways of doing that. Either grow the business or reduce your expenses. Let's focus on growth first. And how do we grow? That's really the goal here. And that's exactly what you were saying.
Yep. One of the biggest mistakes on the guys who start first is that they always try to use the cheaper material. They'll get the cheapest material because it's the cheapest thing.
Yeah.
That's all I could say. Like, they want to be fighting these costs. So not only do they try to get the cheapest material, they try to be the cheapest in the market, and they think that that's going to give them a lot of business. Yes, it does, but it comes full round where you find out that you get bad customers as well. But with cheaper products, what happens is you find out they don't have warranty, they don't care about the products, they don't care about you, they just want the sale and they just want to get out of there. And that's a big mistake for a lot of business owners when they start, is trying to cut costs already, because they want to make money right away and they see these margins increase, but they don't understand that's not where the money is from. Material is never where the money is from, unless we're talking about commercial, right? Where you have big products that you have to buy that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a few points makes a big difference. But when you're in the service industry of residential and everything else, those numbers don't count. What really counts is your service and your business.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
Yep.
It's a race to the bottom. You have this mentality, I'm going to race to the bottom. I'm going to buy the cheapest labor, cheapest material, cheapest truck, and by doing that, I'm going to offer the best price. Well, good, fast, or cheap.
Which one do you want?
You can be 2 out of 3. You can't be 3. And the challenge is those individuals, easy come, easy go. It's simple for them to enter the marketplace, and it's even simpler for them to exit it.
Yeah. How do you guys judge the efficiency of your businesses? How do you know that things are going well?
I have a bank account. I'll look at it, and if it keeps growing, that's all I need to know.
I love it. I love it.
Well, that's like Mike Mihalowicz in Profit First. He talks about that. It's bank balance accounting. Most entrepreneurs look at that. They're like, okay, this is how many dollars I started with. If it's growing week over week, month over month, where are we at? I love numbers and data. I look at profit and loss statements. I look at cash flow statements and balance sheets. And I get really in depth in all that. But really what it comes down to me is where are we at within our dashboard? We look at our business. We look at our KPIs. Every month I have a KPI meeting with our marketing team, so our external team, and also our internal leadership team. And we look at, okay, how do we compare to our pro forma? From where we said we were going to be, where are we? And what are the contributing factors? And you can start looking at things like average cost per job. You're looking at average dollar amount per job. You can also look at where the job's coming from. So we track all this on the front end so that at the end of the month, when we have our pro forma, we also have the other data to back up how we got where we're at. If all you have is the data, like, oh, I have more money in my bank account, the second step is how did we get there and what's repeatable? Once you have that data, then you can build that sustainable business.
There are a lot of listeners listening right now who are thinking, gosh, how do I have one employee and I just want to make things a little bit more efficient. How do they start being, what's the first step on becoming more efficient?
Automation. Automation is the first thing. There's so much technology out there, whether it's jobbers for what we're here for or not. There's so many more things that can help your business nowadays, which you can cut a lot of costs already without having to think about it. As a solo person, what they're afraid of the most is always to pay for something at the beginning, because they think that they want to keep their costs so low that they don't have to spend money. But a real thing that a lot of people have to notice is you have to spend money to make money.
As a business owner, when you want to scale, you have to get down to 10. My goal was 10 things. And then once I get to 10 things, my goal was to get down to 2 or 3 things. And the first thing I have to be every day is the business owner. So now I'm down to doing basically 1 or 2 things that can be a priority for that day or that week. And the way you do that is a 3-step process I learned from this gentleman, Travis Johnson. He's a military guy like myself. And he said, when taking things off your plate, you have 3 options. You delegate, you automate, or you eliminate. And when you do that exercise, I look at my day. Like, what is a good use of my time? Right, this is what I love. I love connecting with other business leaders and other processors and people that see business from another perspective. So now I can take this to my business and make my business more efficient. Well, how do I get here? Well, I get here by empowering the people around me by delegating. I get here by automating my processes. Like you said, Jobber, absolutely. Jobber is the time from before to after Jobber is revolution in our business. That was 6 years ago. Like the time before Jobber was this like archaic chicken scratch place where I ran my business like my father ran a business. My father's been in business for 30 years. The difference is 30 years later, my dad is still chucking the truck. He puts doors in. He's the best door guy in Milwaukee. He's a one-man operation. I've scaled up to 30 employees. I was not going to do it with the same processes I learned watching my dad for 15 years. Because of that, I chose to get into the automation world. And then as more tools became available, how do you do customer follow-up? When's the best time to follow up with them? Right? We can get the phone to ring. Well, what happens after that? Right? There's a lot of things that can happen from when the phone rings, right? Email comes in, text message, whatever, until you actually have a transaction. And what can you do? And then once you have the transaction, how do you stay in contact with that customer? And that's only in the marketing field. And so when you look at your business holistically, I look at the business in 6 different buckets. You got to figure out which are your high 3 and your low 3. Stay in your high 3. And for your low 3 areas, find a way to delegate, automate, or eliminate.
It's a great conversation, guys. We'll take a quick 30-second break and we'll come right back.
With the quick service clients expect today, you need to get them the quote as soon as possible. That could be the difference between you getting the contract or not. With Jobber, I can prepare and send the quote right from my phone before I even leave their driveway. My clients aren't waiting a couple weeks like some of my competitors. It builds trust, it wins me more jobs, and it all works so smoothly.
Smoother from start to finish. Quote, schedule, invoice, and get paid. Start your free trial today at jobber.com.
Okay, so listeners are listening and they are wanting to make their business more efficient. They're wanting to cut costs, whatever the terminology we use. What are some pitfalls that they're about to step into that you guys have both fell into at one point? Where are the traps? Where are the mistakes that you can give our listeners some tips on what to avoid in this whole department?
How long is this episode? I mean, the ones that really irk me is when I think about marketing. I talk about the high 3, low 3 buckets of business. Marketing is number 5 or 6. So it's a low 3 bucket for me. It's not something I don't focus on. And what the challenge I have with marketing, and I hear this from professionals all the time, when the phone's ringing and sales are up, the last thing they're thinking about is marketing. And when the phone stops ringing and sales are down, the last thing they're thinking about is spending money on marketing. And what I realized is that my business was very, very cyclical because my marketing and sales efforts were cyclical. When we first got started, we didn't have any jobs, so I had a lot of time. So we went out, we pounded the pavement, we made the phone ring, and we went and did a bunch of jobs. Then we did a bunch of jobs, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And all of a sudden the phone stopped ringing, and I was like, oh, now I need to go back out and market. I remember I used to show up to networking events when I didn't have any jobs the next week. And I was like, and I showed up one time, this guy, he was a Navy vet, Alan. I hadn't been at this networking event in like 2 months, and I showed up. He's like, hey, you're supposed to be here every month. And I was like, oh no, I just show up when I need sales. He goes, it's not how this works.
Is it those BNIs?
It was like it was a morning breakfast. It was a monthly morning breakfast. Yeah, you've done the BNI thing where it's a weekly thing and they hold you to it. And it's like when you don't have that discipline, you falter. I heard recently, the more discipline you have, the more structure, the more freedom. And that's absolutely true. When you schedule out your calendar with priorities, it allows you to have the freedom and the time to do the things that can take your business next level because you've managed to prioritize the things you have to do. And that's what it comes down to. The greater choice I made that did not benefit me or my business was this mindset that my time wasn't valuable. Mm-hmm. I'd cut employees early. No, I'll take care of it.
I'll do it myself.
I'll follow up. I'll do it myself. And what ends up happening is I got busy and I worked 80, 90 hours a week being busy, and I did not adhere to the delegate, automate, right? Even the pre-jobber days. Mm-hmm. I was writing people's information down. I was putting it in QuickBooks manually. I was texting it to the team. I was putting it in the calendar. And then I had to put it in when I went to the bank and put their checks in. It's like, but it's like, well, I don't want to spend $30 a month on a software or $50 or what, like some astronomical, my time is nothing. I got all the time in the world. And then what ends up happening is you're like, hold on, can I invest money and then free up my time? And once I had that paradigm shift, I went from being an operator to an owner.
You were wearing 20 hats at once.
100 hats, 50, hats. I mean.
Whatever, how many hats?
All the hats.
Yeah. The opportunity cost that you're missing out on that whole time of not building a business, working in the business, on the business, it's really cost you.
A scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. You have the scarcity of money mindset versus, hold on, I have an abundance of time. How do I best use it? Once I started making best use of my time, the business grew and the dollars followed.
Terrence, what point in your business career did you discover that you needed to start working on the business, not in the business? Going from being just a plumber, you still do plumbing now, but when did the change shift? Like, I need to become efficient.
Day one. I knew sooner or later that I had to be a business owner versus wearing so many hats. So in the beginning, we go back to, even more of the beginning when we talk about podcasts about cutting costs. I never thought about cutting those costs or anything else. All I thought about was, how do I invest in that next person so that I can train them to free up more space for myself? And during that whole time in the past 3 years, I finally was able to get a guy who was interested in being a manager and be able to run the whole show. And that's how I took out all those tasks that I had to do before. Now he does them all, and he does the day-to-day. And where now I focus on working on the business versus working in it. Because a lot of times people don't understand, biggest thing we talk about is time is money. And you feel like you have to wear so many hats because you want everything to be perfect. The biggest mistake that a lot of people make is the fact that they want perfection and they want everybody to be like them. But they don't understand that the biggest mistake you can make is that mistake, that nobody can be like you. If they could, they would have owned their own business. Right? So that's a really big mistake a lot of people make. And by trying to chase that perfection all the time, they lose the chance of scaling. And it's a huge thing I see in the industry all the time. So many older fellas or even younger guys, they have such an ego with them that they want to have perfection because they think they know the best. What they're doing is they're creating a job for themselves. That's it. They're not creating a job for others. They're just going to go in that full circle and be that one truck Chuck forever because they want to be the best and nobody else can match up to them.
And it's true. They are the best.
Yeah.
And they
100%.
can't take vacations. They can't scale. They have no business to sell because they are the best at what they do. I knew day one, June 1st, 2016, when we said, okay, my brother and I, we're going to do this. I told him 5 years from now, I don't want to be here. I do not want to be in the day-to-day of the business. That's the goal. And like 18 months later, we were there because we figured out from day one, okay, you're in, I'm on. That's all we knew. Our methodology back then was there was an electrical contractor that we had both worked for. It was Chuck and Craig. Chuck was in the office, Craig was in the field. And so every time a new thing came across our plate, like the things that we didn't know about, like, oh, we need insurance now. Like, Isaac and I would look at each other. It was like, is it a Chuck thing or a Craig thing? And I'm like, it's a Chuck thing. All right, so it goes in Andy's bucket, right? And then it was like, oh, customer complained. It's a Craig thing, right? It's a Craig thing unless there's a refund, then Chuck has to get it. And that's as simple as we made our business, right? So business is very, very simple. Comes down to the choice. You chose to take the time and money to find someone to invest in them. When you don't do that, you end up taking that time to put out fires. The challenge is if you don't have that mentality day one, I don't know what day you have it. If your goal is to buy yourself a job, that's fine. No shame in that. But then it's on you that you're not going to scale. It's on you that the entire business revolves around your craftsmanship, your ability to do work.
But don't blame people on that. A lot of people like to blame the people they hire, saying they're not good enough or whatever it is, but they're never accountable for their own actions. And that is another big mistake I'm saying. They're not accountable because they don't think it's their fault. Every time they hire somebody and there's a problem that they can't do, they're going to blame the employee right away. That's a big mistake.
Or you swoop in and fix it, and then the employees don't learn. Right now in our company, I am probably the worst junk removal specialist. We got 17, 18 guys in our crew right now. I'm the worst one. That's how it should be. And I'm not bad at the job. They're all better than me. They have more experience. They've learned tricks and tips that I haven't learned because I've allowed them the opportunity to grow.
Yeah, you probably have to, at one time sooner or later, you have to give that up because you know that your job, you have to keep it running. If you don't, how do they get their 8 hours a day? How do they even have work? It just doesn't happen just like that.
I'm curious what you guys think about how do we make our employees more efficient? How do we make our team more efficient? What do you guys think about that?
Culture. My biggest thing is culture. What I constantly try to do is make everybody feel like it's a family. Whether it's a family business or not, you want to make sure the hiring process that we talked back in episode 3, was it? That you want to hire the right people for the job and you want to hire the right people for the team. You want to make sure the people that you bring in are for the team. You want to make sure that they show up at events. You want to make sure that outside of work that they have their own events. You want to make sure that all of that happens where, they constantly talk to each other and they're comfortable with each other, that they'll even go out for lunches or dinners themselves and you don't have to be part of it. That's what I'm talking about when you have culture, because you want to make sure that they'll be there for when there are dark times. For what I tell my guys all the time is just that you have to know this is a team. Whenever you're in a bind, it could be 3 a.m. at night, you could be doing an emergency call. I will be the first one that's still awake to make sure that you're going through that job. And same with the manager and everybody else, they will always answer your call. Like, we don't want to make the guys work 24/7, but we want to make sure that they know that everybody's going to be behind them when they need our help. And that's the main thing that I'd say, like, when you're looking at, how do you get your employees more involved, is have a great culture. I personally have company events once a month. So we do that throughout the whole year for the whole 12 months, and even for Christmas, we have a big party all the time. So you want to do things like that to keep them engaged, to keep them seeing each other all the time, to make them comfortable. And even for me, I don't do much work on the field anymore, even at all, but I would still go out once or twice a week, and I'll see a group of my guys, and I'll just have them all come in and have a long lunch. We'll have an hour and a half, whatever it takes, just so that we can build the culture to know that this is a chill environment, but at the same time, this is what we're about. We're about connecting. We're about each other. And the most important thing, what I train my guys to do is when they come in, I have them work almost like contractors. They're trained from beginning to the end of taking a call, to quoting a call, to writing the job description, to taking care of the customer, to invoicing the customer, and to deal with their own issues. I want them to feel like it's their own business. So if they ever walk into an issue where the customer wasn't happy about something, like a chip on a wall or something, they're allowed to say, we'll give you $50 off, we'll give you $100 off, whatever makes the customer happy. That's what I employ in that culture, to make them know that they have the decision to do whatever they want, as long as it's justified, of course.
I love that. What you're talking about within the culture is the ownership. So the number one thing, very tactical, profit share. That's the number one thing. Once we rolled that out, all of a sudden the guys started talking in business terms and like terms, right? And so it's the theory of an H relationship versus an A relationship. So H is where we're bound, by this connection, and we expand and contrast. Once we develop and put a third element in, a shared goal, now we have an A relationship, right? And now when we expand and contrast, we don't expand and contrast that much. So what ends up happening is guys are focused on the same thing. We had a situation recently where one of our leaders, leaders, cost us money, right? It was an expense. It was a repair, right? Repairs happen. Mm-hmm. I don't like it, but they happen, right? We have a separate line item on the profit and loss statement, and I don't like to see it. Damage. Damage. That's correct. Repairs are one thing, damage is another. We'll call it damage. One of our employees, Tommy, he was so upset. He's like, because it was outside this door, so now they had to walk around longer in the warehouse to get to the same destination. Someone's like, are you mad because you have to walk? He goes, no, I'm mad because fixing that is going to come out of my profit share next month. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh. And then I heard that, through 3 different channels. And I'm like, okay, it's working. All right. 15 months after we implemented profit share, the guys are seeing things in like terms as we are in business owners. Profit share without culture will not work. When you have both, that's the best of both worlds. We talked briefly about how do you cut costs in your business. I love what you just said, and I'm going to steal this. One of the things, when our guys, when we put them in operations or they're in operations, they start to appreciate the phone call, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I'm going to now implement that into our training process. Like, it happens eventually.
Yeah.
With our leaders, we need to put them in that position so that they have that ownership in the field. When you have ownership throughout your whole organization, you as the leader no longer have to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Organization holds themselves together.
It's huge. We have another guy we put him as a marketing manager because he does all the marketing side with me, but he knows how to take the phone call side as well. So when our actual service manager is out of town or he's having his vacation, he finally takes the calls. He appreciates it so much more because now they know the other side of what it's like dealing with a customer and taking that call. It works wonders.
We did it with the warehouse manager. He was the chief, introvert, complained about things. We put him in ops to run the phones. He shined because he was great one-on-one with customers, and he shined, and he also appreciated and understood how that will impact his job in the warehouse, and he made the warehouse operations more efficient because now he's communicating externally with our customers and then internally with our guys. He had only lived on one side of the equation for the longest time. He went from product gets back to the warehouse, what do I do with it? Now he's from, how does product even get to the warehouse? He understood it conceptually. Now he's like, oh, you have this thing in your house? Oh, do we need to set up an estimate? How does that look?
That's big because it's like the transparency is the biggest part. Whenever I could talk to my guys, it's always about what we spend money on, why we lost money, what we're spending on, and we don't say who gets paid what, but we tell them where does all this money go and why we have to charge this much and why we're not making that much money on certain jobs. When they can see that whole picture because the transparency is there, they finally know that a $20,000 or $30,000 invoice does not mean the company made $20,000-$30,000.
We're not going on vacation.
Yeah, we're not going on vacation. We're not millionaires. We're not billionaires all of a sudden. It doesn't work like that because a lot of people, when they first join jobs, because there's no transparency in there, even as me as an employee back in the day, I would think, holy crap, the company just sold $50,000. Where's my cut? right? You would think that. There are a lot of people that think that, but the more you try to teach them, the more you coach them, you have to almost feel like in that culture, you are the leader. You have to coach each one of them and help them through their life as well, because you're actually working for them at the same time. And when they know all of that and get all that information, they're a lot more appreciative and a lot more understanding that you don't make as much money as they think they do.
Great conversation, guys. I'm just going to summarize a little bit here. So we talked about cutting costs is really more of a matter of efficiency.
Yep.
Being careful about how the cost that you do decide to cut, how will that negatively impact your business? Are we cutting parties that build morale, or are we actually cutting fat that really needs to be cut off? And then never cut marketing costs. Always be feeding the giant, right? Always, always, always feed the giant. Andy, Terrence, thanks so much for being here. Where can people find you guys online?
LinkedIn. Also have the Trash Talk Business Podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find me on Facebook if you really want to be friends. Pretty transparent. My phone number's there. I mean, you can shoot me a call or a text, and I get back to people pretty quick.
You can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook. All of it at the THE __impetus.
Gentlemen, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.